Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of For the Fans. We're here tonight to talk about Week 14, make predictions of Week 15, talk about more about the NFL, and have some other for the fun topics and some polls for you guys out there tonight. McKay, do you want to get started out?
Absolutely. I'm really excited for this. This is always a treat. It's almost like the highlight of my week every week, wouldn't you say, Shane?
Oh, definitely. And I think it's even becoming more exciting for us now as we're getting closer to the NFL playoffs, which is going to be one of the bigger times, especially with a lot of these teams coming in pretty strong.
And can I just say that I am so incredibly excited for the playoffs this year. There are so many teams that we're kind of diverting away from the playoffs where we're kind of seeing only one specific team that we're like, yeah, they're probably going to win the whole thing. Instead, we're seeing, there are multiple teams here. There are plenty of dark horses, and we really don't know how this is going to end until it ends, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. I mean, it's good. I feel like this playoff bracket is going to be one of the more exciting playoffs that we've had in recent history. I mean, I know this is kind of bragging as a fan of my team personally, but I would say probably like one of the more exciting ones was when the Jaguars went to the AFC Finals against the New England Patriots in 2017, just because they were such a big dark horse going in to the playoffs and people didn't expect them to make it that far.
Always got to put a plug in for Jacksonville, don't you, Shane?
I mean, it's not so much of that, but it is a little bit of that. At the same time, like, there was a lot of people rallying around the Jaguars to beat the Patriots because nobody wanted to see the Patriots win another Super Bowl that year.
Oh, of course. That absolutely makes sense.
So it wasn't so much more my team, it was more of everyone's decided to hopefully see the Patriots lose, what didn't happen that game, but happened in the Super Bowl itself.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I totally get that. Well, welcome everyone. For those of you joining us, just as a reminder, here's where we discuss the scoop, the stats, and upcoming games in the National Football League. Our hope is as this podcast grows in viewership, we will branch out into some other sports, particularly the NBA. But for us here at the beginning, let's talk about the amazing sport of football and how this current 2019 through 2020 season of the NFL is going to play out. For those of you listening, again, thank you for joining us on this fun little experience we have here. If you have anything that you'd like to say, whether it involves a player, a team, a matchup, some little aspect of your fantasy, please share with us because we love to answer questions, we love to discuss, and we love to really just get everyone's feedback here. This podcast is called For the Fans because this is where all of us as a fan base get to voice our opinions.
Yeah, and I would even say, like, because one thing that we do every single week is that we make predictions for the upcoming games. Feel free to chime in with your own predictions for these games. That's part of the thing that we're trying to do is like trying to implement all the fans. Everyone can make a bunch of predictions, and who knows, like you guys may even get a prediction right on the head, which, McKay, you and me, we've come so close so many times. I really wanted to just see if either us or even one of our fans watching can correctly call a game 100% down the line, score, who wins, everything.
We're still hoping for that perfect score, aren't we?
We really are. We've gotten so close, and I feel like we're getting closer. We're getting there, but we're not quite there.
Mm-hmm. So we'll just have to see. Maybe with this week, maybe this will be the one. We'll have to see.
All right, but so let's continue. We're gonna kind of do things differently. So normally, like we have like go through like Thursday to all the way to Monday night and kind of just give everything a synopsis. Now that as we're starting to wrap up with the season, we're kind of just trying to do mainly highlights. We're still going to go over our predictions for the games, but we're going to mainly highlight the playoff contenders and potential wild card contenders for the playoff bracket for this season.
Of course, but we also don't want to leave someone's favorite team out there. So we're going to first start off by highlighting some of the games from the past week, but these are kind of more of the games that don't really have any playoff implications, and they're more just between two teams that just had another regular old matchup as we get towards the end of the season. And Shane, we're kicking this off with the Indianapolis Colts versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just a little refresher here. My prediction was 26-21 with the Buccaneers winning. Shane, yours was a lower score with 17-10 with the Colts taking it. Final score was a high-scoring game, very close, down to the wire, 38-35 with the Buccaneers taking the win.
All I gotta say about this game, with the Buccaneers taking it, that's gonna almost knock out the Colts out of the playoffs. But at the same time,
nail in the coffin.
But at the same time, that was a lot higher scoring game than I thought, which made for a more exciting football game than I originally anticipated.
I agree. The only thing I would have to say on this is the way that perhaps on the Buccaneers side that they were playing, it may just be Jameis Winston trying to fight for his job and solidify his future with Tampa Bay. But who knows what the front office is thinking. We will have to see when the offseason comes for that. But as for that, good win for the Buccaneers. Not going to get you to playoffs. Colts, they're probably out of it at this point. And that AFC South battle is going to be more between the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans, which, sorry, Shane, the Titans are still fighting for this. I know you don't want.
I hate that that's the reality that I'm living in. But let's move on, because I don't want to talk about that, because we'll have to talk about it later. Lions versus Vikings. McKay, you predicted 32-14 Vikings. I said 28-12 Vikings. Actual score was 20-7 Vikings. I was at least fairly close with that, like a little bit off, but I think everyone just knows Vikings kind of came in. Everyone kind of knew that the Vikings were going to walk over the Lions.
Yep, and there's a lot of quarterback issues that are, of course, going on in Detroit, with Matthew Stafford having his back injuries, and Jay Driscoll, he's having his, I believe it's a hamstring issue. So now you have this third stringer Blau from Purdue University, who, yes, his one claim to fame is that he did get the win over Ohio State when he was in college last year, but he hasn't really been wowing that much with the Detroit Lions. And unfortunately, that puts Matt Patricia's job on the line a little bit. It's a unfortunate scenario for the Lions, who started off hot this season, but they've fallen dead directly to the bottom of the NFC North, whereas the other three teams are either in it for the playoffs or still fighting for that one last shot.
Yep. But let's move on. Next game, we have Redskins versus Packers. You predicted this one so close, and I am so sad that it didn't happen. You said 20-13 Packers. You were robbed. The actual score was 20-15 Packers. I said 24-14 Packers. I just feel bad that you were robbed from this.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed about it. But you know what? It's really interesting, sort of the decision that I came up with for why that would be the score. And we're going to talk about that a little later when we go into the Packers matchup for this year. Honestly, I don't have much to talk about that until we get to that point. Shane, do you have anything?
Other than Redskins aren't that good, Packers are pretty good. Let's move on.
Yep. We got next Bengals versus Browns. My prediction was 21-10 with the Browns winning. Shane, yours was 24-17 Bengals. You were hoping the Bengals would be able to pull out that second win. Final score was 27-19. Honestly, Shane, you got the closer one here. Pretty impressive. Just off by just a couple of points.
But you did pick the wrong team, so oops, my bad.
So the only interesting thing that I want to bring up in this scenario, Shane, is a little bit of the drama that's going on with the Cleveland Browns right now. Odell Beckham Jr. having these health problems, and Baker Mayfield kind of trashing his own team, talking about it, and then of course Freddie Kitchens or the rest of the Browns kind of have, they have to come and talk to Baker Mayfield and say, hey, shut your mouth, dude.
I was going to point out another issue going on with the Browns right now, which I don't know if you've heard, but apparently Odell Beckham Jr. has been going to teams that have been doing pretty well and said, hey, come get me out of Cleveland.
I was going to touch on that a little bit too. I don't want to officially say anything unless we see anything in the offseason. But Shane, can you really blame OBJ with his talent level and how terribly his season has been going with Cleveland? I mean,
let me put it to you like this. And this is a very recent scar for me. Jalen Ramsey was with the Jaguars. Jaguars started out not doing that great. And he was like, oh, my back hurts, and was getting mad, got traded over to the Rams, and all of a sudden he's fully healed and has no issues. It makes me kind of think it's like, oh, are we seeing another Jalen Ramsey in this scenario?
Shane, I don't even know if you want to call it a Jalen Ramsey. Look at Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. Look where they're at right now.
I think they're the ones that started this whole thing.
I 100% agree. Anyway, let's move on. We want to get through these not so stellar games through fairly quickly. The next game that we have to talk about is the Panthers versus the Falcons. My prediction 27-14 Falcons. Shane, yours was 27-24 with the Panthers taking the win. The final score was 40-20 with the Falcons winning. Quite a wide spread as far as this game goes, Shane. And man, you have to admit, such a disappointing just end to the Panthers season. At first they were doing fairly well there, thinking they would maybe get a wild card, had an MVP candidate at the top with Christian McCaffrey, and now they're kind of it's kind of just tipped over. It's gone sideways.
They're lost. And I remember we were talking, I think, right around when we were starting this podcast, if not like in the first episode or two, is that we talked about like how the Panthers were legit NFC South contenders. And now, and we were also talking about how the Falcons were like at the bottom and everyone's just kind of walking over them.
Mm-hmm.
But now the Falcons have bounced back and the Panthers have just fallen. So hopefully with Rivera gone from the Panthers and Panthers making some big changes, definitely starting with the head coach, they should hopefully see some progress next season because they do have a good, solid MVP candidate in Christian McCaffrey on the team.
Agreed. And for those of you who are listening right now, just a little heads up, tune in to our For the Fun special for next week. Next week, we will be going over what we think the quarterback scenario is going to be for every team, and that includes the future of Cam Newton.
Very well said. Well, let's move on to that game unless you have anything else you want to add, Falcons and Panthers.
Let's move on to this matchup between the Dolphins and the Jets in the AFC East.
All right, so McKay, you said 14-9 Dolphins. I said 12-9 Jets. Final score 22-21 Jets.
Close game with the Dolphins holding the lead most of the time. Jets just barely win one out in the end thanks to Sam Fickens' field goal.
Yeah, Dolphins were doing pretty good. I would say they lost it in the second quarter, but then they started to come back a little bit. And then fourth quarter, it all just came down to the very end, and the Jets just took it away from them.
This is a garbage match anyway. We can just move on.
All right. Oh, no. Do we have to move on?
Yes, Shane, we need to go over this one, even though it's going to make you cry.
Oh, Chargers versus Jaguars. McKay, I tried to warn you last week. You said 21-17 Jaguars. I knew better, but I thought it was going to be a close game. It was 21-20 Chargers. Actual score, 45-10 Chargers. All I'm going to say about this, the Jaguars have been officially eliminated from the playoffs. They are no longer in contention at all for it. And there's going to be changes coming. I can feel it, and if there isn't, my goodness, next year is going to be a living nightmare for any Jaguar fan watching.
Let's hope there's some changes then. Don't you agree?
Yep, they made Rivers, who was looking bad, look like a demon again. But let's move on. Yep. Giants versus Eagles.
Yeah, this is the last one we're going to cover really quickly. My prediction was 24-14 Eagles. Shane, you predicted the same. Final score is 23-17 with the Eagles winning, which, by the way, happened in overtime. This wasn't really much of a surprise. I think more of the surprise was that Eli Manning was doing so well at the very beginning.
And then old man Eli showed up.
Yep, despite what he was able to do, it just wasn't enough for the Giants. Shane, the only thing I have to say here is, I kind of said it last week as a little joke, but fly, Eagles, fly. I really hope the Eagles can take the NFC East division. And again, I'm not saying they deserve the division. I'm literally just saying I don't want the Cowboys in the playoffs.
I mean, I'll agree with you. I want the Eagles to win the division, but I'm going to throw in one more thing. With the Giants losing with Eli Manning as a starter, Eli Manning as a starting quarterback now has a losing record as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
True. That's right. And if I know Eli Manning doesn't watch this podcast, but I'm just going to say this right now. Eli, that should be a clear sign to you. It is time to retire.
Follow your brother and go into retirement.
You have 2 Super Bowl rings. Let's call it good. Anyway, let's move on to the more notable games that we saw from this past week. And Shane, we're kicking it off right now with the game of the week, possibly even the game of the year. This is very similar to that Kansas City Chiefs LA Rams game that we saw last year. 49ers versus Saints. My prediction, 27-24 with the 49ers winning. Yours, 24-21 with the Saints winning. Final score, 48-46, 49ers win.
I will say, this was an amazing game to watch. I was sitting at home, able to watch a good amount of it. I was happy. It was going back and forth. And here's the thing. So you're comparing it to the Chiefs and Rams game, which was a high-scoring game. But you got to look at the other games that we've had this year. The 49ers and the Seahawks. another big game. We've had a lot of really strong games this year already, and it's starting to feel like a lot of these teams could make it further into the playoffs.
So this is my question for you, Shane, because another game that we should mention too that was quite close going down to the wire was between the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, we can't say, we did hypothesize that could be a Super Bowl matchup, but in this case, because only one of these two teams, being the 49ers and the Saints, only one of them can come out of the NFC to play in the Super Bowl. Shane, do you think this matchup right here, do you think we'll see it again for the NFC Championship game?
Championship game, I will say no, because if you remember, I think the Seahawks are going to go to the championship game and play the Ravens in the Super Bowl. I'm still sticking to that as of right now. But I want to point out, the 49ers, they've been playing the Saints, they played the Seahawks, they played the Ravens, all super strong Super Bowl candidates. Every single game has been really, really good and really, really close.
That is true.
Now, I want to throw that same question back at you. Who do you think we're going to see in the championship game for the NFC? If not, is this one going to be it?
You know what? Here's the interesting thing is I really do think it is going to be the Saints versus the 49ers. Again, I don't want to dog on Seahawks fans because if I'm wrong, that's okay. I think the Seahawks are a really good team. Maybe the thing that has somewhat changed my vision on that came this week when the Seahawks just looked really tired and dropped a game against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I understand that, likely the Seahawks will get a lot more serious about the game when it comes time for the playoffs. But just between how Sean Payton coaches, how Kyle Shanahan coaches, nothing against Pete Carroll, but between how those two coaches, between how well the Saints are doing with the ball between Drew Brees and his defense, and Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, players like that. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, with that dominant 49ers defense, Jimmy Garoppolo playing great football, I feel like this would be such a phenomenal NFC championship game. And no offense to Russell Wilson or anything like that, with how well he's been carrying his team. But I do see it as being a battle between New Orleans and San Francisco. If I'm wrong and the Seahawks make it, great. But this is just the way I see it.
Yeah, and I can agree with you. I honestly think that the NFC playoffs are going to be the games that you're going to want to watch this playoff.
Yes, I 100% agree. But we've talked a lot about the NFC, Shane. Let's move over to the AFC now with the Ravens versus Bills game.
So you predicted 30-13 Ravens. I said 32-17 Ravens. Actual score was 24-17 with the Ravens taking it. So with this win, the Ravens officially take the AFC North, and Bills still get in the wild card spot?
I say so.
Yeah, I think the Bills have probably the best chance, and I don't want to hate on Patriots fans. I don't want to be that guy, but you got to be worried if you're the Patriots because the Bills are right behind you, and they have a potential chance to steal the AFC East from the Patriots, who I can't remember the last time the Patriots have not won the AFC East title.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, Shane, and I'll just, I guess you could say I'll play devil's advocate here. I don't think the Bills will be able to still run away with this one against the Patriots. It would be great to see, but I still see the Bills as a very credible team, and no one should underestimate them when the playoffs come around.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I would love to see the Bills take it. Do I think it's likely? Not really, but man, it would be great to see.
Yep.
All right.
100%.
Any other highlights from the game other than Lamar Jackson is still tearing up the field?
I think we pretty much covered it all. The game that we're going on to next, Shane, this is just embarrassing. This is just embarrassing for the Houston Texans. Of course, we're talking about the Broncos and the Texans game. Drew Lock getting his start. Oh my gosh. The Broncos they were playing on another level against these Texans. And I don't know, did the Texans look tired? I don't know what was going on there, but what worries me about this, and the reason that this is on our playoff watch list is not because of the Broncos. They have no shot of getting into the playoffs practically at this point. But if the Texans keep dropping games like this, then they're going to lose the division to the Tennessee Titans.
Yep. And just real quick, our score predictions. We both said 28-17 with the Texans taking it. Broncos came out 38-24. Andrew Luck, like you said, he has been a nice little fire in this Broncos offense. The Broncos started out abysmal. Everybody was beating the Broncos, and now that he's coming in, they are dominating teams.
I absolutely agree. It's really funny how you say Andrew Luck, because it almost sounds like you're saying Andrew Luck, and it makes me sad.
Oh, it makes me sad too. I miss Andrew Luck. Anytime he gets tackled, he's like, "Good job."
Yeah,
he was a classy man.
That's too bad. But, and that's another thing, too. Shane, I don't have too much to talk about this game because, we've kind of already talked about, this could stymie the Texans' playoff chances. But the one thing that I will say here, and again, just as a little heads up, going into, our next week with us talking about quarterbacks in the next season, I think there's a very real possibility that Drew Lock will get the starting job over, say, Joe Flacco. And we all know that John Elway doesn't like to keep his quarterbacks around for very long in Denver.
Yeah, it's very true. But I think he might be a nice change of pace for the Denver Broncos. But
certainly better than Joe Flacco.
Yeah. But let's move on to our next game. Chiefs versus Patriots. You said 21-16 Chiefs. I said 28-16 Chiefs. Final score 23-16 Chiefs. We were robbed again from a perfect score call. Other than that, Chiefs take the AFC West, so they're in. Do you think the Patriots will lose that first round bye, though?
You know what? I could see it. I could see it happening. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying it's a definite possibility. There are some issues within the Patriots offense. And you know what? This is the interesting thing is I'm not going to blame this on Tom Brady. I'm blaming this on the weapons that he has around him that are making it difficult for them to get much going on the offensive side. Shane, the more interesting thing that I would like to talk about with this game actually has to deal with an upcoming game, and that is this Patriots versus Bengals game and the little bit of a scandal that's going on right now. Let's hear your thoughts on that.
So, just for everybody watching, if you haven't heard, the little scandal going on right now is that Patriots were filming, what was it, a documentary or something?
It's part of this little documentary called Do Your Job. I've seen a few of their clips before. The one that I did see was about that Malcolm Butler interception that happened in that Super Bowl against the Seahawks. But yes, continue with what you were saying.
The interesting thing that's coming out, because as everybody knows that watches football, every single year, the Patriots have some way of cheating. This year, apparently during the documentary, it's just filming the Bengals and filming their playbook and watching the Bengals sideline completely. And the crazy thing is that I've seen articles, I don't know how accurate 110% they are or not, but the Patriots have apparently admitted to doing this? What the heck does that mean?
Yeah, and for just a little clearing up, you have officials like Bill Belichick who deny any involvement in that. They're not saying that, they were directly involved with this. But it is a little fishy seeing the situation that those guys that were in there for this Do Your Job segment that, they're working for the Patriots. They said that they were credentialed by the Browns to be filming this, to be filming the sidelines of the Bengals. And we can get more into this, Shane, as, maybe even next week when a little more information comes out about this, because I know we don't want to spend all of our time talking about this. But the one thing I will, Shane, is to the Patriots is, look, I know you guys are struggling with offense, but why do you need to film the sideline of the Bengals? They are awful. They're the worst team in the league right now. Why? I
was hoping you would say that, because I've seen so many things like, if you're going to cheat, why are you cheating from the Bengals? They're literally the worst team. Why are you copying their offense?
Honestly, sure, go ahead and study the sideline of the Baltimore Ravens. I get that. But the Cincinnati Bengals? Really?
Why? Okay. Okay, so one quick thing before we move on. We were talking about will the Patriots lose the first round bye? My big question to throw out to you: do you think that they will lose the first round bye to the team that they just lost to, the Kansas City Chiefs?
Again, what I said earlier is I said it's a possibility. I could see it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see it, and I would like to see it.
All right. Let's move on to our wild card games. Cowboys versus Bears. I'm letting you take the reins on this one.
Sure. For those of you listening, the reason we're calling them wild card games is because there is possibility with at least one of the teams that we're going to be mentioning in these next few matchups. They have the possibility of nabbing the wild card spot. It's not official, but there's a possibility. In this case, yes, we know the Cowboys actually could secure a playoff spot, and the Bears are making this last-ditch effort to secure a wild card spot. Shane, again, really close. Oh, no, excuse me. When I started looking at these predictions, I said, oh, someone was really close. No, we weren't. My prediction was 20-13 Cowboys. I picked the Cowboys as for those of you listening know, even though I'm a Bears fan, I picked the Cowboys because every time I pick them, they lose. Shane, you said the same score, 20-13 Bears. The final score was 31-24 Bears. The only things that I want to bring up here, Shane, is because I don't want to delve into all the specifics of the game. Yes, Mitchell Trubisky had a huge night. The Cowboys couldn't get anything going. It's probably a very depressing situation going on in the Dallas whenever they're practicing in Dallas. And, the Bears are trying to get this roll going where they're hopefully thinking, oh, maybe we can steal that playoff spot from the Minnesota Vikings. Shane, my first question to you is, with Trubisky finding his rhythm against the Dallas Cowboys, was it a fluke, or do you think this is the real deal?
I mean, I'm not the expert here, but I'll weigh in my personal opinion on this. From everything that you told me about Mitchell Trubisky, and from what I've seen of him, he's a very inconsistent quarterback. I mean, just to kind of bring up my personal team to kind of relate it to you, Blake Bortles was either really, really good some games, or he was terrible. And I feel like Bears fans feel that same way with Mitchell Trubisky, as either he's doing great, we're fine, or he is the worst quarterback in the world, we need to get rid of him immediately.
Yep, I think that's a good way of putting it. Now, so if that's the case, what I'm gathering from your response there is you think this was a fluke.
I will say that this was a fluke.
I'm going to agree with you. Again, and for people who have been listening, people know here that, yes, I'm not as harsh as some Bears fans are with Mitchell Trubisky, but I'm not necessarily a fan of him. The way I see it here is I think this was more on the fault of Dallas's defense than it was on the abilities of Trubisky. Now, yes, he got his legs and he was running in this game, and he was able to score even his own running touchdown, which was very impressive. But I blame that more on the Dallas Cowboys defense dropping the ball there. I will only believe it is the real deal if he can do that this Sunday when he plays Green Bay.
Speaking of the Cowboys are still currently in the lead for the NFC East. Sorry, I'm trying not to laugh, but
I know. This is just the NFC East is such a dumpster fire.
I just want to point out, NFC East, their division leader has a losing record right now, and they have a potential to go into the playoffs. Leaving that aside, do you think the Cowboys should or are going to win the NFC East?
It's all going to come down to that game in Lincoln Financial Field in a little bit between the Cowboys and the Eagles as far as which one of these teams is going to take that division. And honestly, if it were left up to me, I'd say, nope, neither of you get to go to the playoffs. We're going to give it to one of the other teams, like the Rams or the Bears. But it's such a nightmare how that division is. And here's the one thing that I want to say, because some people might say, one of the critiques that I've been hearing is saying, they're saying the NFC East is still the best division. We are the only the response is we are the only division in the NFL that every single team has a Super Bowl win. The Cowboys have 5, or the Redskins have 3, and the Eagles have 1. Shouldn't you be playing better?
I'm just showing everybody kind of what the NFC East is looking like right now while you're going through this.
That's exactly. Shouldn't you be playing better? Now I understand you can say like, okay, well we're struggling against each other, and that's where the losses are coming from. But no, not one of those teams is showing me something really impressive that says, well, we're the best in the division, and that's why we're competing against each other. Because none of those teams is stand out. Dallas is having issues. It looks like right now with their defense. And I'm not really seeing anything impressive from Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Mari Cooper, any of those guys. The Eagles, Carson Wentz is playing like Jay Cutler. I'm being serious. Washington, garbage. And then the Giants, on the other hand, here, they're the worst of them all here. Not even Eli Manning, thinking, maybe he can come out of it and, win this game recently. That didn't help their chances at all. Even with having Saquon Barkley there, they are still playing terribly. It is just an awful division. If it were left up to me, none of them should go to the playoffs here. But in answer to your question, do I think the Cowboys should not win the NFC East? I agree. I say move over. Let's have the Eagles back in it. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to win because whoever does take the NFC East has to play either the Seattle Seahawks or the San Francisco 49ers. We know what is going to happen there.
It's going to be a bloodbath, and when I say bloodbath, I mean it's not going to be two sides beating the heck out of each other. It's going to be one side literally turning the other team into a bloody bath.
Very graphic display there, Shane, but you're not wrong.
I mean,
okay.
It's gonna be bad. Let's move on. Titans versus Raiders. You said 24-21 Titans. I said 24-21 Raiders. Final score is 42-21 Titans. We got the losing team wrong, or we got the losing team prediction right.
Yes, it's true. And maybe we were just dyslexic as far as the win goes. The one thing that I want to talk about here, we've kind of already highlighted the situation that's going on with the Titans. There is a possibility that they could overtake the Houston Texans and win the AFC South. Shane, do you think that's going to happen, or do you still think it'll be Houston?
It's hard to say for the main reason. If they still had Marcus Mariota, I would say, yeah, no. Titans don't have a shot against the Texans. Texans are going to take it way over the Titans. But,
Ryan Tannehill is a bit underrated, wouldn't you say?
I would say he's very underrated. He's come into this Titans team, and he has been flourishing underneath this offense, and they're legitimate contenders right now.
I agree. Now, as far as my personal opinion goes, I say no. I still say that the Houston Texans will win the AFC South. But, man, are these Titans giving them a run for the money.
Yeah, the Titans are not making it easy, and if anything, it's going to come down to the very end on who gets what.
Yep. And on the other side of the ball, Raiders, guys, you looked like you were gonna get a wild card spot, and you blown it over the past few games.
Yeah, Raiders not looking too pretty anymore.
Going to happen. And that brings us to our next game. The reason that the Raiders are not going to get that last wild card spot is because of this team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, they played the Arizona Cardinals this week. My prediction, 28-13 Steelers. Shane, you said 28-14 Steelers. Final score was 23-17 Steelers. We were very close. But going back to our highlights here, Shane, is there any doubt here? I don't think there is. The Steelers will win that last wild card spot in the AFC.
You bring that up, and I will say, I think the Steelers have the best shot, but I think the Texans or the Titans might take that second one. It's going to come down between those three teams on who gets that last wild card spot.
You know what? And you present a valid point there. I guess maybe I just have so much faith in the Steelers, and I'm thinking, no, they got this. It's okay.
I mean, we got to think. The Titans have been on a rise lately, so even if the Texans win out, the Titans being on this rise could knock the Steelers out. Steelers are currently on, their third-string quarterback?
Yes, and while Duck Hodges is nothing to write home about, at least they're getting the job done.
And that's the important thing, I think, at the end of the day, is that you're getting the job done. As long as the Steelers can come out and get the job done, I think they will solidify that second wild card spot. But until we can see towards the end, because I think it's going to come down to the very end, we won't know who that last AFC wildcard spot is going to go to.
Yes, and yeah, I think that's exactly it. We probably won't find out until the very last few games of the season.
But let's move on. Seahawks versus Rams. You said 31-20 Seahawks. I said 35-17 Seahawks. And in a surprising upset, 28-12, the Rams?
Shane, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, where I said the Seahawks looked tired. It just looked like nothing was really happening there. I feel like they were just a little tired from playing the Vikings 6 days before. And I don't really want to talk so much about, the Seahawks, because I know that they're going to rebound, they're going to fix things, and they're still going to make the playoffs. Shane, my question for you is do you think the Rams can make that last minute playoff run? We've talked a little bit, and let's throw this into the conversation too, because yes, the Vikings are right now in a pretty good position to take that last wild card spot, but do you think the Rams or the Bears could maybe steal that from them?
And I hate to bash on your team, I don't think the Bears are going to be able to steal it from the Vikings.
I agree with you, so don't worry. I agree with you. I think there's too many. The odds are too stacked against them.
I would love to see it. Do I think it's going to happen? No. The Rams, on the other hand, they got a slight chance. It's going to be hard. The Vikings are good. They're showing that what they're worth. I think the Rams aren't going to make it, but they will come close to stealing it from the Vikings.
I agree with that. My only doubt because the Rams have an 8-5 record right now. And which is not too far off from what the Vikings have right now. And the Rams play the Cowboys next. They could easily win that game. They play the Cardinals at the very end of the season. The only one that makes me a little bit worried is they do play the 49ers still. And that could be tough for them. Unless, of course, the 49ers decide to rest all their starters because they pretty much guaranteed themselves a playoff spot. But I don't think that's going to happen because they're still going to be fighting the Seahawks for who gets the title and who gets the wild card.
Yeah, I think it could still be a good fight. 49ers. I don't think the 49ers would necessarily bench anybody unless they are solidify like the NFC West. I think that they're going to keep fighting, try to win out that first round bye compared to the Seahawks. And I think that's what it's going to come down to is that are they going to bench their starters or are they going to let them play?
Exactly. And I think at this point, though, we've already talked about we don't think the Bears are going to be able to make that playoff shot. And I'm going to say the same thing for the Rams. I think the Vikings will take that last spot.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for our games from this last week. We came close to a few.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I think that's going to be it for the games of last week. I think we covered all of them.
Yes, we did. I heard you on that part.
Yep. So let's move on to our predictions for next week.
Okay.
All right, so let's start off with our Thursday night matchup, the New York Jets versus the Baltimore Ravens.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was like, all right, let's move on. And I'm like, oh, it's the Jets versus the Ravens. That's, ouch.
Ready to hear my prediction?
I'm ready.
Ravens.
Oh, whoa, oh my gosh, that is mind-blowing. I don't think anybody's going to pick the Ravens.
I wouldn't say that's a bold choice, but that's my prediction.
What's your score going to be?
That's what I said to you, 40-7 with the Ravens winning.
40-7. Okay. I think I'm in the same ballpark as you. I'm going to go with the Ravens again. I'm going to bump it up a little bit. I'm going to say it's going to be 48-10.
Okay. And I think there is a possibility there because I think there is the chance that I think maybe towards the end the Ravens might just let off the gas a little bit, but you know what? I think the biggest thing that we're saying there is the Ravens are going to win this game.
Ravens laying off on the gas is probably not going to mean very much for the Jets team.
Yes, I agree. It's not going to give them a chance. It's kind of like when they played the Patriots a little while ago.
Exactly. All right, let's move up to this next week. This is going to be an exciting game for you. Bears versus Packers.
Okay. For this one, Now, this is really interesting. I am going to pick Chicago on this one. And my reasoning for this is because I've noticed that the Packers have been a little sluggish in beating teams that are not very good, the Lions or the Redskins. And I feel like maybe the Bears are going to pick up a little momentum after beating that Cowboys team. And it's a bit of a revenge game after that embarrassing 10-3 loss at the very beginning of the season. Also, Akeem Hicks is coming back, and I feel like it is very hard for an offensive line to guard both Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack. So I'm going to take the Bears on this one. Still being a close game, I say the final score is 21-17.
I'm going to take the same score, but I'm going to do the Packers on you. I'll give Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks their due respect all day long, but I don't think they're going to be enough to stop the Packers this week.
Right. And something too that we need to talk about there too is that, the Packers do still have, a very good situation going on here. They're likely going to win the NFC North. And this game will be played in Lambeau Field. I'm not, again, if the Packers win, I'm not going to be like, what? It won't be much of a surprise. I think just in this case, I'm just saying with the odds the way they are, might as well go with my team.
All right. Patriots versus Bengals. Oh, why? Patriots versus Bengals. Again, this is going to be a blowout in my opinion. I think the Patriots are definitely going to take it over the one-win Bengals. I don't think it's going to be a big blowout, but I think it's going to be like 28-10.
Okay. Mine's close to, I said 23-11.
Okay. Let's move on. Nothing further to discuss there. Seahawks versus Panthers. This could be interesting depending on if the Seahawks show up this week.
Which I think they will. I've got the Seahawks winning this. Final score being, let's say, 28-17.
I'm going to say the Seahawks take it as well, but I'm going to say it's going to be 21-13.
Next.
Texans versus Titans, which is going to be a big game. It's going to decide who has control of the AFC South.
Right. Who do you got?
Oh, man. I'm going to say the Texans are going to be able to rebound this week. I'm really hoping they do because I really don't want to see the Titans take the AFC South. I really don't want to see that. So I'm going to say Texans take it in a 21-17 showdown.
Okay. And you know what? Just because you did pick the Texans, just to provide a little difference, I will say the Titans win. But I will say the final score is actually going to be 30-27.
Ooh.
Titans.
Big scoring game.
Yes. Okay. Who we got?
Dolphins versus Giants.
Oh, Tank Bowl.
Oh my goodness. What? I'm sorry, any Dolphins and Giants fans, just turn your TV off. Don't even watch this crap.
I'm going to say final score 24-22 Dolphins.
I'll agree with you. And I just want to point out to everybody watching on how bad this game's going to be. It's the 3-10 Dolphins versus the 2-11 Giants.
That's a bad matchup. It's not going to be anything impressive.
It could end up being a higher scoring game just because they suck so much, but it's going to be a bad game. Eagles versus Redskins, a good division matchup. Hopefully the Eagles can win it and take control of the NFC East away from the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but fly, Eagles, fly? Is that how it's done?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it goes. I say the final score is 24-20.
I'm going to say the final score is going to be 24-14.
You know what? I'm actually going to change mine and say the same thing. You're right.
All right. Please, Eagles, fly. Win the NFC East for us at least.
Seriously.
All right. So, Broncos versus Chiefs.
Again, another divisional matchup, but I believe in Patrick Mahomes, and they got that big win over the Patriots there. Let's give this one to Kansas City.
I'm going to chalk this one up to the Denver Broncos.
You know what? I'm kind of happy that you said that because then it gives a little variety here. And I say the final score is actually going to be 28-27 Chiefs.
Ooh, with them barely nudging out. I'm thinking the Broncos might barely edge it out, but I think it's going to be like a... Oh, let's see here. 31-28.
All right.
I think I want to see Luck continue to rise in what he's been doing so far.
Yes, and that we can both agree on.
And I think this is the game to make that statement on. But let's continue. My goodness, we're getting some really bad games this week. Buccaneers versus Lions.
Oh man. You know what? Part of me wants to say, "Oh, let's have the Lions get one more win," but yeah, I have to go with the Buccaneers on this one, and I think the final score could be, let's say, 27-14.
I'm gonna say Buccaneers as well, but I think I'm gonna go 32-14.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, let's keep the crap bowl going. We got Browns versus Cardinals.
Oh my heavens. Okay.
I'm telling you, these games are bad.
Sorry, Cardinals fans. Yep, I'm gonna pick the Browns on this one. Their final score. Let's say 21-19.
I'm gonna say 24-19 with the Browns taking it. My goodness, this week it's turning out to just be a crap show for football.
Yeah, I guess we won't have too many teams to talk about next week, huh?
Yeah, most of them will probably be gone and eliminated as well. Anyways, Jaguars versus Raiders. Who you got?
Sorry, bud. I got the Raiders on this one.
Oh, don't worry. I'm picking the Raiders as well.
I'm going to say the final score is 23-14.
See, I think you're being too generous. I'm going to say it's going to be 32-17.
Oh, wow. I think you're placing a little too much faith in Derek Carr, but that's just me.
No, I just know the Jaguars' offensive line and how their defense has been playing right now.
I guess that's true.
Minshew will bring a little bit of magic and escape, but not enough to get anything truly done.
Right. Okay.
Vikings versus Chargers.
I mean, I'm gonna give this win to Minnesota, but I'm gonna put it a little closer, with the final score being, this might be a little bit bold, but I'm gonna say 3.
What was that one more time?
24-23 Vikings.
Oh, wow, that is close. I'm going to say the Vikings take it, but I'm going to give it a little bit more of a spread. I was thinking close, but that is too close for my blood. I'm going to say it's going to be 23-21.
Okay. You kept it close, just not that close.
Yeah, not that close, but pretty close. Rams versus Cowboys.
Oh, yikes.
You know what you have to do. Do it for the fans.
I know what I have to do here. And of course, I'm going to go with the Cowboys winning this one. The final score for that is going to be 24-21.
I mean, you can't pick against the current NFC East leaders, right?
Please stop talking.
I'm going to say the Rams are going to take it. Oh,
That's
man.
okay with me.
They're going to take it 28-17.
All right.
Falcons versus 49ers.
Obviously, I'm going to go with San Francisco here. But score-wise, let's say 32-20.
I'm going to side with you on the 49ers taking it. I'm going to say it's going to be 35-23.
Okay, cool.
Bills versus Steelers. This is a good one because we're actually getting a good Sunday night game because this is going to, solidify a good wild card spot.
Yes, I agree with this. And this game, will definitely be a good one to watch. I'm going to pick Buffalo to win this one. Again, I'm going to keep it a little closer. Actually, you know what? This is going to be I'm going to throw it a little wild in here. I'm going to say the Bills win it 28-17.
Oh. I'm going to side with you with the Bills taking it. I honestly thought you were going to pit the Steelers to take it. But I don't know if their third stringer is going to be able to do the job. I'm going to say it's going to be 31-17.
All right.
And our Monday night football matchup, the Indianapolis Colts versus the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, well, obviously we've got the Saints on this one.
I feel like a lot of these games this week are pretty easy to determine who's going to win. If not, it's just the bad teams playing.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And then that score is going to be 27-14.
You know what? I'll agree with you on everything for that one. All right, and that does it for our predictions for the week. So
The fact that we've ever gotten through that.
it's because it was easy. There were a lot of bad teams playing, or a really good team playing a really bad team. Like, it was just I feel like this week is going to be a little bit of a lackluster week for football.
Hey, there's that word again.
I was waiting to use it. Had to find the right time, and I found the right time for it.
You did. Okay. And Shane, what do you think is going to be the game of the week?
Oh, man, our game of the week? Oh, boy. I'm going to say it's going to be a toss-up between the... And I'm not saying, like, it's going to be, like, one team blowing out another. Just probably the more fun games to watch this week are going to be the Texans and the Titans or the Bills and the Steelers.
Let's throw one more in there and say the Bears and the Packers.
Okay, I can see that. Although, if you want a little side game to watch, Broncos versus Chiefs could potentially be interesting.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Okay, well, we've got that in there as far as what we think the game of the week is going to be. The last thing that we need to do before we go into our For the Fun topic, Shane, is we need to do our weekly poll. We've kind of slacked off on that recently. But for those of you out there who are listening, this is the poll for this week. It's very clear who the best team in the AFC is. We're fairly sure that the Ravens will win the AFC. The NFC is still up for grabs between several teams. Please let us know who you think the best team in the NFC is and your reasons for that, because we're at a little bit of a loss here, Shane and I. You could say the 49ers, but the Seahawks beat them. You could say the Seahawks, but the Saints beat them. You could say that it's the Saints, but the 49ers beat them. It's almost like a vicious cycle. You could throw the Packers in there, but the 49ers beat them as well. So please let us know what you think.
And I'm putting that right now, and I'm just showing everybody what the NFC standing is looking like right now of who could potentially be the best. I'm knocking the Eagles and the Cowboys right out of that pot immediately. 49ers and Seahawks, good strong contenders. Packers and Vikings have potential, and the New Orleans Saints are another team up there. I want to know, McKay, what are your personal thoughts? Who do you think is going to be the best team in the NFC West?
I think it's the 49ers.
You're going down with the 49ers.
I am, and the reason that I believe that is because they are able to keep it close with all the other teams, at least, and the ones that have beaten them, they barely managed to edge it out. So I almost want to say it's more luck than anything else. But then the luck was on the side of the 49ers this year. Or, not this year. With this most recent game, this big game against the New Orleans Saints.
I'm going to have to go with the Seattle Seahawks, I think.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. It seems like both of us think that if there is a best team, it's going to come out of the NFC West.
But I will throw this out. Although I am sticking with the Seattle Seahawks as being the team to beat in the NFC, I'm going to say the Saints are my number 2 pick.
And, they normally be my number 2 pick as well after the 49ers. Although, man, that's tough. Seahawks are in there too. You're going to have to come back to me on this. I got to rethink everything.
I mean, you also got the Packers waiting in the wings right there with the Seahawks and the Saints. I mean...
Nope.
You got the Cowboys coming in as a dark horse.
Wrong. Not going with that one either.
I mean, I'm going to leave this up to the fans, honestly. You're sticking with 49ers. I'm sticking with the Seahawks. It's going to be a close one. It's going to come down to the very end. So just comment either if you're watching this on Twitch, watching this live with us, comment in the chat. If you're watching this later on YouTube when we post it up, probably tomorrow, post in the comments down there, and I will read them, and I will converse with McKay on what you guys were saying, who the best team in the NFC West is.
You bet. Okay, let's move into For the Fun. For those of you who listened last week, what we're doing this week is the exact opposite of our For the Fun topic previously. Last week, we did the who do we think the best of the year is, some of the more MVP-worthy candidates. This time, we are going with what we call the worst of the year. And Shane, we're kicking it off for our quarterback candidates who deserve the Johnny Manziel Award.
And
Who?
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay,
I was going to say,
just so everyone gets a little premise, if you didn't watch last week, we came up with names, mainly you, McKay. You came up with names for the worst of the worst position, and we have now created like these little awards for who we think is the worst. And feel free to comment who you guys think is the worst as well. So, like we were saying, quarterback candidates for the Johnny Manziel Award for worst quarterback of the award. McKay, I'm going to let you continue where you were at.
Right. Okay. Thank you. What I'm seeing here, Shane, between some of the picks that you have nominated and some of the ones that I've nominated, here we just need to go over and say, okay, who really was the most disappointing out of this entire year? So I'm going to read off the names that we have selected between the two of us: Joe Flacco, Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones, Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, Marcus Mariota, Nick Foles, Eli Manning, Carson Wentz, Mitchell Trubisky, and Jared Goff. Let's talk about it, Shane. Who deserves the Worst of the Year award?
I mean, I'm going to go with Nick Foles on this one. For the main reason, and I will give my side. He comes in, everyone's hyped, because he had a nickname from the Eagles when he won the Super Bowl, Big Dick Nick. He came down to Jacksonville, gets injured in the first quarter of the Week 1 game against the Kansas City Chiefs, is out for a long time, comes back, and doesn't win a single game, and honestly turns the ball over 3 times in one game in 3 consecutive drives. He put a damper on all of Jacksonville's hopes and dreams this season, and I gave him a new nickname. Instead of Big Dick Nick, I went with Small Dick Nick.
Oh, wow. All right. I think that's the first time that we might have to ever censor anything that's being said in the podcast.
Small D Nick.
There we go. That's a little bit better. I actually don't have a problem with that. I'm just messing with you.
I know you are. I want to know, who is your worst quarterback? Who is your Johnny Manziel candidate?
This is really interesting. And again, I respect that, your decision was to pick Nick Foles there. The reason that I don't think it is him is because this is our first time where we are seeing Nick Foles essentially try and take on that role of being a starter throughout the entire season. Now, granted, in the same scenario, he also was not the starter for the entire season because he got injured. But it was a little bit of a change in pace for him compared to when he really only had to step up for a few games when Carson Wentz was injured in those times of the Philadelphia Eagles. I personally agree with you. Nick Foles is a one-hit wonder, just like that Eagles team was the one that beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I don't think he's does actually amount to very much. Too much of a pocket passer, kind of getting a little old up there in age. Not what I would consider starting quarterback material. The person that I have picked as the quarterback, the worst quarterback, the most disappointing quarterback of the year. Some people on here may think, okay, you're going to pick Mitchell Trubisky, of course. I'm not, actually. And my pick is Jared Goff. I have Jared Goff picked out here because the Rams were the NFC champions of last year. And Jared Goff was playing really good football. Now, I understand that you had a very dominant defense with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, and Todd Gurley was being Todd Gurley. But I have seen a real regression from Jared Goff this year, and it's very disappointing because he did get a lot of money recently in his new deal, and he has thrown so many interceptions and has just played very, very disappointingly for this Rams team that, on paper at the beginning of the season, they looked like they were the best team in the NFL. And I personally I was going to say, I personally want to put more of the blame of why the Rams aren't having as much success on him than I do want to put it on someone like, say, Sean McVay as their coach.
So you're saying that your argument for him of being the worst is he did so good last year, and then he's the main reason on why the Rams are bad this year.
I want to say that, and not just last year, but remember the year before the Rams also were doing very well. He just seems like he just was not that good this year, and everyone was expecting him to be. I understand, and the reason I'm saying it's not Nick Foles, and again, not saying okay, you're dumb for picking this choice. The reason that I don't want to go with Nick Foles, Shane, is because Jacksonville. Now, granted, they were expected to be better than they actually turned out to be this season. But I don't think anyone had the same level of expectations for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Nick Foles as they did for Jared Goff and the Los Angeles Rams. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense. At the same time, though, boy, was there a lot of hype when Nick Foles was going to the Jaguars. And I'm just going to read off like our top 3 candidates for each. You said your number 1 was Jared Goff. Number 2 was Mitchell Trubisky. Your number 3 was Carson Wentz, which I can agree with those. My top 3, and the reason I put these as my top 3, so I have Nick Foles, Marcus Mariota, and Eli Manning. 2 out of my 3 candidates were replaced by rookie quarterbacks this season.
It's true. You have a point there. The reason that maybe I don't agree with those is because, and again, I guess maybe this just comes more to expectations, but I don't think anyone was expecting something stellar from Mariota or from Manning this year. Foles, you have a point. People were expecting good things from him. Manning and Mariota, not so much.
Which is why, like, I understand like your thought process with Jared Goff, but I think you're looking at more like who had really high expectations, like Johnny Manziel when he was coming in. Really high expectations, but absolutely dropped the bomb on it. My picks were more of who just sucked this year.
Yeah, and those 3 are very valid as far as, did they stink? Yeah, you bet they did. So we'll leave this up to anyone else there. We can't quite come to a decision between the 2 of us, so we leave it out there to the fans. Who was the worst quarterback for this year? Who deserves that Johnny Manziel award? I think it's Jared Goff. Shane thinks it's Nick Foles. Let's hear it from you guys.
All right, and while we're waiting to hear from responses, let's move to our defensive player candidates for the Mason Rudolph Helmet Award.
You like that name, don't you?
I love that name. That's beautiful. All right, who were your top 3 picks?
From what I'm looking at right now, we can generally just name out that, you and I actually have the same 3, just in different orders.
Yep.
So we might as well just name out the three really defensive player candidates that we have nominated for this award.
You go ahead and start with I'll just say who they all are, and then we can put them in our order. So we have Jalen Ramsey, Myles Garrett, who this award is named after, Vontaze Burfict, and Xavier Rhodes.
I think one thing to mention in there is Xavier Rhodes is a bit more of a dishonorable mention. He hasn't done as awfully as I would say these other 3 are, or these other 3 have, in my opinion. For my list, I actually have Vontaze Burfict on as number 3. And again, I think it's just because he did not do the Raiders any services by playing as dirty as he pretty much always does. Myles Garrett, same situation. Didn't do the Browns a single good thing by clubbing Mason Rudolph in the head. Jalen Ramsey, though, however, is my number 1. And again, it comes back to expectation. I thought Jalen Ramsey was going to fit in very well with the Los Angeles Rams, be an excellent cornerback for them. And it just didn't really seem like it actually worked out. Granted, he did show a little bit more promise in this game against the Seahawks, but I'm looking more at that game against the Ravens, where he just kind of just watched as the play was happening around him, and he did nothing to create a tackle or anything like that. And then, of course, he tries to go at it with Peters a little bit at the very end, and just kind of like they try and fight back and forth a little bit, but he's not actually showing any spunk. I feel like Jalen Ramsey is all talk, and that's why I have him down as my number 1 worst defensive player candidate and the recipient of the Mason Rudolph Helmet Award. Shane, you're thinking a little differently.
I'm thinking a little differently. I put Jalen Ramsey at the bottom line. He was a former Jaguar, known for his mouth, notorious for it. complained about his back. Like, I'm very bitter about a lot of things, and I think a lot of it's just like, I kind of expected him to leave, that he wasn't going to do as good, because on that Jaguars team, he was the shining star. On a Rams team, he's not the number one golden boy anymore.
You're right, and maybe that's part of the problem.
My second pick, Vontaze Burfict. He is a dirty player. I'm sorry, but I think he's a dirty player. He's always had this history of just being a dirty player, and I feel like it's kind of hard for me not to put him on this list in general.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that.
And then my number one is Myles Garrett. Because how could I go against who this award is named after?
You present a very good point there. I mean,
my only point with it
maybe
why do you take another player's helmet off, especially the quarterback? I mean, we had some discussion about this a couple of weeks ago on why we thought this happened, but why would you do that, in all honesty?
And you know what? That kind of brings me to my reasoning why I don't want to put Myles Garrett at the top, is because I feel like maybe in this, the reason that I feel like he doesn't belong, up there at the top, is because Myles Garrett isn't necessarily always like that. It just seemed like there was this one total lapse in judgment at that one point, and it was a big lapse in judgment. But most of the time, I feel like Myles Garrett is really not that bad, and he is a good defender. The reason that I guess I have Jalen Ramsey, although I could almost make the argument too that Vontaze Burfict deserves this more, because all Vontaze Burfict knows how to do is deal dirty hits, which actually doesn't make me happy because he's former Arizona State alumni, and I'm a big ASU fan. I'm actually wearing an ASU shirt right now. Thanks a lot, Vontaze. Thanks a lot, man. Way to bring the hype to your alma mater. Anyway, I guess the reason why is, again, it comes down to expectations, and for the most part, I do say that Myles Garrett is a good player. He just messed up in the worst way possible this year. And maybe that's why, Shane, you think he belongs to the top.
Yeah, I mean, he has been a shining spot on the defense for the Browns, and to do that and basically be out for the season because of that really puts a crutch on the Browns team right now.
Yes, and that you do present a good point in that case. Again, we couldn't really come to a decision here, so again, we're putting it out to the fans. Who is the recipient of the Mason Rudolph Helmet Award?
All right, let's move on to our kicker candidates for the Double Doink Award.
We've got a few to name here. And we'll just kind of name all out here, and then we'll give some discussion. It's very fitting that the first person that we should name is Cody Parkey, who this award is named after. He did play a little bit of time as a kicker for the Tennessee Titans. Other names: Young-Ho Koo for the Atlanta Falcons, Sam Ficken for the New York Jets, Steven Hauschka for the Buffalo Bills, Eddie Pinheiro for the Chicago Bears, Adam Vinatieri for the Indianapolis Colts, and Brett Maher for the Dallas Cowboys. Shane, let's hear first why the three that you picked and why.
My number 3 was Young-Ho Koo. Main reason, he has not been a good kicker. He's missed a lot. Not something that you would expect from a kicker. My number 2 was Adam Vinatieri, which makes me sad to put this on there because he was a phenomenal kicker, but this season, his leg's not doing so good with making what the Colts need.
And he's getting old. Yeah.
And my number 1 pick is Eddie Pinheiro. I'm sorry to put your boys on there, but
I don't like you. I don't like you for picking Eddie Pinheiro. I'm just kidding.
But in all honesty,
you present a good point as to probably why he should at least be on there.
You and me have talked, and I have asked you many times, even on the podcast, saying, what do you think of your kicker? Like, I don't like him. I want a new one.
Right, and again, I'd love to hear your reasoning behind this. You're right. I do want a new kicker, but that was maybe a little bit of me being upset after that Chargers game where he did miss the final field goal, which was very similar to the double Doink award. However, Pinheiro has been improving over the last little while. He's gotten a little more consistent.
He has gotten a little bit better in his game. So I will tell you what I did is that this morning I actually was like looking. I was like, who's the worst kicker? I'm like, I want to see what like some of their stats are and kind of like break this down a little bit more on the statistical side. He is in the bottom. Like I think he was like in the bottom 5. And I was like, ooh, that's a little rough on this.
Which is true. But I think also another reason why he is somewhat in the bottom 5 is a little bit of it being, his first year in this situation. Now, granted, and I'll bring up here my picks on this one. The reason that I don't even have him on my top 3 is because I feel like my top 3 are actually more inconsistent as far as they are missing more of their kicks, which that's what you're supposed to do as a kicker. You're supposed to make those points, and they're not doing it. My number 3 pick was Steven Hauschka for the Buffalo Bills. I picked him because I feel like he is just that one weak link for the Bills where he is just there's always at least one time in the game where he is not making it. My number 2 pick is Adam Vinatieri for the same reason, Shane, same as you. It's a little disappointing where this very talented kicker is all of a sudden regressing and just playing absolutely awful. However, my number 1 pick, and I'll tell you the reason why, my number 1 pick is Brett Maher for the Dallas Cowboys. And the reason that I picked him is, again, for the same, is stats-wise, that he is the kicker who has missed the most out of any other kicker this season. He has missed more extra points and field goals than any other kicker in the league. And I think he did break it. I almost want to say he broke a record for missed kicks in the NFL. And I know this is bad too because even Cowboys fans don't like him. They call him barely Brett Maher because if he does make it in, it's just barely. And so that's the reason I have him as my number 1.
I just want to point out, it's very fitting that you have a Cowboys kicker at your number 1. It's very fitting. Not to throwing stats away for everything right now. It's just very funny to me that you have a Cowboys kicker as your number 1 for the worst kicker. That was just a side note that I had.
Yeah, I'm being honest. I just and it goes beyond the point of how much I dislike the Cowboys. I really just feel like that's another huge woe for the Cowboys this year is Brett Maher is just awful. And another thing to bring up, Shane, he got cut from the team yesterday.
Really? I did not know that. But
Yeah,
I also
and
don't
so
pay
again,
attention to the Cowboys.
Right. I only saw just as a little side note there that they decided to bring in Nick. I think it was Nick Folk. No, it was. I think it was Nick Folk's backup from the New England Patriots to be their kicker. Yeah. The way I see it, he's the worst, and that's my reasoning. He even just got cut yesterday, so that's why I picked that one.
I mean, I'll even side with you on that completely. There were some facts I didn't know about him, but yeah, like in all honesty, I think he could. Mainly from the fact that he got cut yesterday, I think we might actually have an official award winner for the Double Doink Award.
I don't think we really need to battle on that one. I agree. Eddie Pinheiro is not amazing, but I think Brett Maher is worse.
Oh, yeah. So we have an official winner for something that I didn't think that was going to happen tonight. It's our Double Doink Award, Brett Maher. Congratulations.
Congratulations, barely Brett Maher.
All right. So our worst coach candidates for the Take Me Out Coach Award.
We got a few names in here as well, similar to our quarterback list. I'll run them off here. Zach Taylor, Pat Shurmur, Freddie Kitchens, Jason Garrett, Jay Gruden, Doug Marrone, Dan Quinn, Adam Gase.
And do you want to start with your 3 or you want me to start with my top 3?
Start with my 3 first. My number 3 pick was Doug Marrone. And Shane, you and I have talked about this plenty. He's just not doing anything good with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're right. He's probably going to get canned during this offseason. My number 2 pick is Freddie Kitchens. And as I mentioned, him being my number 2 pick and also my number 1 pick. I have the reason. Again, this goes back to what I was saying: expectations, and that's the reason why I feel like they are the worst this year is because they were expected to be good, or at least have their team good, and they weren't. Freddie Kitchens, the Browns were expected, maybe even just get out of just who they are. They're the Cleveland Browns. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL consistently. And I don't feel like Freddie Kitchens has done that. Yes, there are other issues, whether it's Myles Garrett or, Odell Beckham Jr. not having a very good season, Baker Mayfield being inconsistent. But I think a lot of it you can also blame on Freddie Kitchens. And I don't know if he's going to be sticking around with Cleveland and going into the next season with them. Again, as I mentioned, it comes down to expectations. And my number 1 pick for Take Me Out Coach Award is Jason Garrett. Again, I picked the Dallas Cowboys. But again, I'm getting on that train of saying Jason Garrett needs to be fired. Jerry Jones, you got to get rid of that guy. I don't know why you haven't even done it yet. The Cowboys are playing so stinking awful, and it's amazing that they might even have a shot at going into the playoffs.
Because the reason they're keeping him, he's the biggest Cowboys fan. He's always clapping. He's always cheering.
Oh, please, no. That literally makes me cringe every time I see that. That's just all I have to say. I mean, that's really why I have Jason Garrett picked as my number 1. I'm not totally sold on the idea that he is the worst coach of the year, but I feel like he's definitely up there, and he's being recognized for the fact of how bad he's doing. And again, he's similar to Freddie Kitchens and Doug Marrone. I don't think he's going to last.
Hey, I mean, if anything, they could take him out as a football head coach and make him the Dallas Cowboys head cheerleader coach.
I don't want to see him in those outfits that those Cowboys cheerleaders wear.
I'm not saying the outfit. He's just going to be standing there like, okay, girls, follow me, and just starts clapping.
Give me your top 3. I don't even want to match. You got a bad image in my head right now.
So my number 3 is Jason Garrett of the Dallas Cowboys for obvious reasons. My number 2 is Jay Gruden of the Washington Redskins. Has not been going great, and the main reason I put him on here is they drafted a young, good quarterback, and he was refusing to put him in for the longest time until he finally had no other choices and put him in, and they did fairly well.
Didn't even have the choice. He got fired.
Yeah. No reason why he deserved it.
Yeah.
Doug Marrone is my number 1. And
Shocker.
Let me put it to you like this. He has been around for a while. He has not done great. He's very predictable. He put Minshew in. The fans loved him. Minshew was doing great. I won't say like great as in like full-on Tom Brady in his prime great, but like Minshew was doing good for a 6th-round rookie draft pick. But I will say, the decision to pull him out is going to hang over his head as a big mistake. And the thing that bothers me the most, and this is the reason why I put him as my number 1, after every single game, including when we finally were eliminated from the playoffs this season, he acts like everything's okay. He takes no responsibility for anything, and he's like, "Oh, it's fine, everything's fine. We'll get it back next time." But there's no improvement. In fact, we haven't been improving. We've actually been regressing, and a lot of this is on the play calling, and a lot of it is how the players' demeanors are. He is not in control of this team. He is not coaching this team, getting them to where they need to be, and it's showing really, really strongly, and that's why he's my number 1 pick for the Take Me Out coach.
You know what? I'm actually going to change my thoughts on that, and I will agree with you on that. Give another one here. We do have an official consensus on who wins the Take Me Out Coach Award this year. It's Doug Marrone of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Congratulations. I hope you get fired next year.
And that's coming from a Bears fan. That's not even coming from the Jaguars fan. But I think that about wraps up for what we have planned for this evening.
I think it does. It was fun talking about some really awful players and coaches. And again, just a little heads up. I've said it a couple of times already in this podcast. Tune in next week. We're going to be talking about literally every team and what we think is going to be the situation with their quarterback next season. We think it's going to be possible to do, considering we won't have too much to talk about. It's the games, as so many of them are going to be, games that we don't really want to talk about, right?
Pretty much. I mean, It's mainly going to come down to the for the fun, and we're going to talk about, like you said, what are the quarterback situations looking like for each team next season. And I just want to put this as an image for everyone and a reason on why they should follow us. If you don't follow us on either Twitch or YouTube, you'll have Jason Garrett come into your house, standing next to your bed, leaning over and just slow clapping.
Stop.
If that is not motivation to get you to follow us, then I don't know what is.
No kidding. Yeah, I'll follow you. I don't want to do that.
I don't think anybody wants that. Just wake up in the middle of the night and you just hear a slight... I don't think anybody wants that in their sleep.
Okay, shake it off. Shake it off. We'll get them next year. Good turnover. Good turnover. All right.
But in all seriousness, guys, if you enjoy us, give us a like, give us a comment, follow us. It's super easy, super fun. We're doing a thing every week. We love football. We love talking to you guys when you guys are chatting in with football. We've had some pretty good discussions in the past with people that have been tuning in, and it's honestly been a lot of fun, and we just want to get more people involved because I personally think that you guys will have more fun the more involved you get with everyone in this community that we're trying to build.
100%.
But I think that's all for us tonight. McKay, do you have anything that you want to say to everyone before we log off for the night?
Guess just what I usually say: work hard, keep your loved ones close, and don't let them be a Cowboys fan.
It's true. They're a Cowboys fan. They're very likely to have Jason Garrett clapping over their bed.
Yeah, no kidding. Just remember, you probably will see this if you ever follow any of the NFL memes, but don't get after kids who still believe in Santa, because there are grown men who still believe in the Dallas Cowboys.
It's very true, and that's a sad sight to see. Kids are still having a little bit of fun and hope, and there is a Santa Claus out there for any kids watching. But Cowboys fans, you guys have no hope. Just stop.
You just have 5 rings. We them boys.
Anyways,
thank you for tuning in, everyone.
Have a nice night.